I had a miscarriage. I was shattered, barely able to breathe, let alone speak. My mother-in-law sat across from me, sipped her tea, and said, "Maybe it's for the best. You'd have been a terrible mother." My husband? He nodded in agreement, not even looking at me. That night, I packed my things and the security footage of him cheating with his coworker. I mailed the video to, well, let's just say I wasn't about to leave quietly. My marriage was a carefully constructed facade. From the outside, we looked perfect. The successful husband, the dutiful wife, the picture-perfect family gatherings. But perfection is just another word for carefully hidden pain. My mother-in-law, Margaret, was the architect of this illusion. An aging socialite with perfectly coiffed hair and razor-sharp judgment, she'd spent years crafting her son into her ideal version of a man. And me? I was just the inconvenient accessory she never quite wanted. "Darling," she'd say, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "don't you think that dress is a bit tight? Or have you considered losing a few pounds before the family photos?" Each comment was a surgical strike, designed to chip away at my self-worth. My husband, Michael, was her masterpiece. Tall, successful, corporate ladder climber. He learned early that agreeing with his mother was the path of least resistance. I was just collateral damage in their unspoken family dynamic. I tried. God, I tried to fit in. I hosted perfect dinners, remembered every family birthday, smiled through countless backhanded compliments. But some games are rigged from the start, and I was never meant to win. The breaking point wasn't sudden. It was a slow burn of 1,000 tiny cuts. Each criticism, each dismissive glance, each moment of silent betrayal. They thought they were maintaining family harmony. What they were really doing was building my resolve. I wasn't just going to be another story of a woman who stayed silent. I was about to become the chapter they never saw coming. Some families keep secrets. Mine was about to have its reckoning. Marriage wasn't a partnership in our home. It was a performance, and I was the unwilling supporting actress. Michael's career was everything. Investment banking, long hours, corporate retreats. But I knew the truth. Those late nights weren't about spreadsheets. They were about escape. Escape from me, from the life we'd supposedly built together. His mother, Margaret, was the puppet master. Every family gathering was a carefully orchestrated production of microaggressions and calculated remarks. "Darling," she'd say during Sunday lunches, her voice like silk-covered steel, "have you considered fertility treatments? Or perhaps adoption might be more realistic for someone like you." Each word was a precision-crafted weapon. And Michael? He'd sit there, drinking his scotch, saying nothing, doing nothing. The signs were everywhere. Late-night texts, hush phone calls, that perfume that wasn't mine. But I told myself I was being paranoid. Marriage is about trust, right? Wrong. My attempts to connect became increasingly desperate. Date nights I'd plan, romantic surprises, conversations where I'd try to understand why we were drifting. But Michael had mastered the art of emotional distance. "You're overthinking things," he'd say, or, "Can we not do this right now?" Translation: "I don't want to deal with your emotions." Margaret's influence wasn't just an occasional jab. It was a systemic erosion of my self-worth. She'd helpfully suggest diet plans, comment on my career choices, imply I wasn't good enough for her precious son. And Michael? Always neutral, always silent. Some people break relationships with dramatic confrontations. Me? I was preparing something far more precise, far more devastating. They thought I was blind. They thought I was weak. They were about to learn the difference. The moment came not with a scream, but with a whisper that cut deeper than any knife. I was still bleeding, still grieving. The loss of our child, the one thing I'd hoped would bind us together, had become just another battlefield. She didn't even wait a day, didn't allow a moment of grief, of silence, of healing. "Maybe," she said, each word carefully chosen like a surgeon's scalpel, "it's for the best. You'd have been a terrible mother anyway." The room went silent. Not the peaceful silence of comfort, but the suffocating silence of complete betrayal. And Michael, my husband, the man who was supposed to be my protector, my partner, he nodded. In that moment, something inside me died, and something else was born. Not child, but a resolve so sharp, so crystalline, it could slice through decades of manipulation. Years of subtle comments, of being made to feel less, of being told I wasn't enough, of watching my husband choose his mother's approval over my dignity. The miscarriage wasn't just about losing a child. It was about losing the last thread of hope. The hope that somehow, someday, I would be enough. They thought they had broken me. They were wrong. Some stories end with tears. Mine was about to end with fire. Silence is a dangerous weapon, and I have become its master. They think breaking me is as simple as a few cruel words, as if decades of calculated attacks could be condensed into one moment of pain. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to collapse and let the raw, primal grief consume me. The miscarriage, Margaret's words, Michael's betrayal, each a wound deeper than the last. But screaming? That would be their victory. Rage is a luxury for those who can afford to be loud. Revenge? That requires precision. Every movement calculated. Every breath controlled. I wasn't just planning an exit. I was orchestrating a symphony of exposure. They spent years trying to make me small, invisible, insignificant. They forgot one crucial detail. Invisible doesn't mean powerless. Some women break. Some women shatter. And some women become the earthquake. This wasn't about revenge. This was about reclamation. My silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Some people think leaving is weak. They're wrong. Leaving can be the most powerful act of self-preservation ever conceived. I wasn't just packing a bag. I was dismantling an entire facade. One flash drive. 3 destinations. A surgical strike of truth. They thought they knew how to break me. But they forgot one fundamental truth. A woman pushed to her absolute limit becomes something they cannot comprehend. I included everything. The security footage, the text messages, the hotel receipts. Not just evidence of his affair, but a comprehensive documentation of years of emotional abuse. To his boss, professional misconduct and workplace infidelity. To his mother, the son she protected, exposed. To his church, a moral reckoning. Some call this revenge. I call it accountability. The last thing I packed wasn't in my bag. It was my self-respect. And unlike everything else I was leaving behind, that was coming with me. Game, set, match. Liberation doesn't always look like what you imagine. The fallout was immediate, brutal, spectacular. His corporate job? Gone within a week. Turns out HR takes workplace misconduct seriously when you attach video evidence. My mother-in-law called, screaming, threatening, demanding I fix this. But her calls went to voicemail, then straight to blocked. Some people mistake silence for weakness. I was rewriting the definition of strength. The first month was a detox, not just from a marriage, but from years of emotional manipulation. I reconnected with myself, remembered the woman they'd tried to bury under layers of criticism and doubt. I didn't just leave a marriage. I excavated my own identity from the ruins of their expectations. They thought exposing the truth would break me. Instead, it became my liberation anthem. People ask if I regret it. The exposure, the public unraveling of their perfect facade, not for a single moment. Some stories end with divorce papers. Mine ended with reclamation. I didn't just survive. I emerged. So, Reddit, was I the a-hole for leaving the way I did? For sending that footage where I knew it would hurt? Would you have done the same? Share your stories in the comments. And if you